J.J. Watt decided to sign with the Arizona Cardinals. He put it out himself. He was his own source. He wore a Cardinals t-shirt and tweeted out the picture and posted it on his social media platforms. The contract is worth $15 million per year. It's a 2-year deal for $31 million. He is now reuniting with his former teammate DeAndre Hopkins, and he's going to be in that Vance Joseph defense. And I think this was a huge pickup for the Cardinals. You look at J.J. Watt's stats in 2020. He had 5 sacks, 52 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and 17 quarterback hits. His sack numbers were not there because he got double-teamed the entire year. The Texans have nobody else on that defensive line that can get after the quarterback. So Watson was facing a lot of double teams, and because of that, the sack numbers were low. But he still had an 85 PFF grade, which is elite according to their scale. And for me, I mean, you got Chandler Jones. You got J.J. Watt. This is the best pass rushing duo in the entire NFL now. And Chandler Jones had 19 sacks in 2019. He's had double-digit sacks in every year since 2015. 2020, he was injured. He only played 5 games. And the most sacks since 2012, Jones with 97, and second is Watt with 95.5. The only question for me is injuries because J.J. Watt has had some troubles staying healthy in the past. Chandler Jones is coming off an injury. So we'll see what happens there. But if they can stay healthy, they are going to be the best pass rushing duo in the entire NFL. This almost guarantees that Hassan Reddick will not be back. But, oh my gosh, they were the 12th ranked defense last year. Chandler Jones missed basically the entire year. They were 10th in yards allowed, 5th in sacks, and an 8-8 record. With J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones being healthy, this team can take such a big leap. Their core now is J.J. Watt, Chandler Jones, Jordan Hicks, who I love as a pass coverage linebacker and a tackler, Isaiah Simmons, who in his second year I think is going to take that next step, Buda Baker, Byron Murphy Jr. They got a lot of young guys who are ready, and this almost guarantees Hassan Reddick won't be back. They don't need to bring him back because they got J.J. Watt now, but this was a big-time move. I thought J.J. Watt was going to the Packers, the Bills, or the Browns. Yeah. I did not expect the Cardinals at all.
His Peloton bio. What was that all about?
It wasn't him. It was fake. It was fake. It wasn't him.
Kind of like going off what we were just talking about with the Rams, it's just the division that's tough because obviously this is a great signing for the Cardinals. You kind of covered everything there was to say, but the main point being opposite Chandler Jones is going to create the scariest pass rush in football, and it's going to totally change the landscape of the division. Now you look at a team like the 49ers and them either bringing back Trent Williams or shoring up that offensive line becomes of at least even more importance than it was before because now you know you're going to be facing those two times in this upcoming season, and it gives the Cardinals a legitimate pulse in the division that I don't think they would have had if they didn't go out and make a splash like this in free agency. You know, I can honestly see them making a run at a playoff spot now, whereas before a move like this in that division, I don't know if they would have had a chance just because of how much talent there is that they would have to be playing for half the season. Still, even with the signing, Kyler Murray is going to have to maybe not take a jump, but at least remain consistent over the course of the season. I thought Kyler started out this past season really well, but then as the season went on, he kind of fell off a little bit, and it led to the Cardinals not making the playoffs when I thought they should have been a playoff team. So Kyler has got to take that next step where he can consistently be, the quarterback we know he is, which I think he struggled with that consistency a bit towards the tail end of last season. So now it's some added pressure on Kyler. The Cardinals are kind of showing they're going all in right now, and they need Kyler to take that next step if they want to compete in this division with the teams around them. I mean, you just look at the Rams with Stafford, the Seahawks with Wilson. Kyler's got to play at that elite level this upcoming year.
I think Kyler kind of being inconsistent is the combination of being a young quarterback and Cliff Kingsbury being a young play caller. He showed a lot of his inexperience during the Cardinals season last season, and this is the thing that worries me about this move that they made to go out and sign J.J. Watt. They did bring in a great future Hall of Famer in J.J. Watt, But at $15 million per year, one, they didn't have enough cap. They didn't have a bunch of cap space to play with going to the offseason. Now you sign J.J. Watt. I mean, they need a number 2 receiver next to DeAndre Hopkins. Larry Fitzgerald is not what he once was. Christian Kirk is not a number 2 to me. He makes too many questionable decisions when he runs with the ball. Sometimes he runs backwards. And they don't have some real tight ends. You know, I think Max Williams he's okay. Dan Arnold is okay, but they aren't real game changers. Because of that, I just don't know, you know, what they're going to do. If they can get some guys in the draft, and maybe it happens, but I mean, even these past couple of drafts, they drafted Andy Isabella, who I thought was a great pick at the time, but he's not panned out to this point in the NFL. So the draft is always a toss-up. In free agency, maybe they can sign a guy like Tim Patrick. I would like that. Or just another guy to take the load off DeAndre Hopkins, but they need some more offensive weapons. I think that defensive is fine. It's really about just surrounding Kyler Murray with weapons. I think their offensive line isn't as bad as people would like to make it seem like it is. I think they're an okay offensive line. The priority is getting them weapons because it's an air raid offense. Because it's an air raid offense, you don't really need great offensive linemen because you're getting the ball quickly out of your hands anyway, and the field is spread out. Because of that, you're not going to get a lot of people trying to rush you as heavily as they would in other systems. So they just need to get guys who can make things, create things with space, screens, whatever it may be, running short routes. They need to get guys like that. But also they need to address the cornerback position because Patrick Peterson is not there. So you need to sign a draft guy too. So there are still holes on this Cardinals defense and offense that they have to fill. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, the good thing is I do think this draft is fairly deep at the wide receiver position, and I think there's some good options later in the draft at the cornerback position. But I said it for Kyler, and it kind of goes towards the whole organization. There's more pressure on that building now to succeed. They put themselves on a 2-year clock. You know, and I don't want to say it's a 2-year window of success and then that's it, but it's going to be really disappointing if they are not even competing in these 2 seasons with J.J. Watt after they just threw him a bag. So now, with that money off the board for them, the draft becomes of utmost importance. You're going to have to find a legit number 2 that can come in and from day one make an impact. Otherwise, you're throwing Kyler to the Wolves, you're throwing Cliff Kingsbury to the Wolves, and you're asking them to take a leap without giving them any improvements on the offensive side of the ball. So everybody's job in that building got harder today, even though it was a good signing. It put so much pressure on everybody in that organization to succeed even more over the next 2 seasons. Whereas, you know, you would have had a little bit more leeway where you could have spent this $30 million over the next 2 years in free agency on those holes. But I do think it was a good signing. I just think it presses everybody a little bit more.
I think the pressure would have been there regardless because Kyler Murray in 2 years is due for a contract. Yeah. So regardless, it was a 2-year window because you have to pay Kyler Murray sooner rather than later. So because of that, I think all they're doing is try to maximize their window with Kyler Murray. We'll see how far they can go, but the NFC West is the toughest division in football. 49ers will be healthy. The Seahawks are still there, and the Rams got Stafford. So we'll see how far they go, but I'm ready to say that I think the best team in the NFC West will be the 49ers, then the Cardinals, and then the Seahawks and the Rams, depending on that. I think it's possible every team has a winning record because they're that good of a division. But, you know, I'm really high on the 49ers coming into this season. I really am.
That's the thing. I could see almost any team winning that division, and I could see almost any team being the worst team in that division, depending on how things go this year. But I think any of them would be the favorite in almost any division in football.